I've been reminded plenty of times that things like money, social status, education, and upbringing don't really determine if someone's going to stick by you through thick and thin. When it comes to loyalty, whether in business or marriage, it all comes down to personal choice. It doesn't matter that I got married back in the early 2000s. Hey, that was a golden era for many, right? I remember it like it was yesterday, fresh out of university with a red diploma in physical education. Back then, I set up a little desk in my room, printed business cards, calendars, and other stationery with a logo. Simple stuff, really. I learned a couple of programs and boom, the opportunities were everywhere. Money wasn't exactly hard to come by. So all those stories about broke students. Definitely not my case. Maybe it was luck, maybe it was my gut feeling for the market, but whatever I touched seemed to turn to gold. Of course, my standards were high. If I bought a car, it had to be a high-end model. If I dated a girl, she had to be a beauty queen. And that's exactly how I met Harper, at one of those beauty contests. Not just a pretty face, though. She was sharp as a tack, too. She had just gotten her degree, and we didn't waste any time. I'm not one to drag things out, so 6 months later, I proposed, and she said yes. I approached family life with a clear plan, fully aware of how to prevent unnecessary conflicts. From the very beginning, I told Harper that I would take full financial responsibility for the family, but in return, I expected her to focus on running the household and raising our children. I've always dreamed of having a big family, and Harper agreed from day one. No one argued with that. In 15 years of living together, we have achieved a lot. We have given birth to 3 children, built a house, agricultural equipment, and much more. I tried myself in various fields. I was engaged in business, tried my hand at politics as a deputy, and eventually got involved in construction. Twice a year, we took family vacations, and occasionally Harper and I would sneak off for a couple of days to a campsite, just the two of us. Honestly, work was my passion, and that constant hustle kept me going. But over time, Harper started to feel restless. She admitted she was bored and mentioned wanting to try her hand at business. Sure, I encouraged it, why not? But, as expected, it didn't last long. Running a business wasn't exactly like picking out a new nail color every other day. Managing inventory, calculating salaries, and handling taxes quickly wore her out. Eventually, her ventures ended up under the supervision of my company's chief accountant, a sharp woman who balanced the books with the precision of a metronome. After that, Harper dabbled in sports, astrology, and even floristry classes. I didn't mind. I've always believed people need something to keep them engaged. Otherwise, they risk sinking into depression or stagnation. Honestly, I lost track of all their hobbies at one point. Around that time, I started traveling frequently to meet with equipment suppliers abroad. During my rare visits home, I noticed Harper seemed more lively and upbeat. I figured she'd just found a new passion project. Meanwhile, the money coming from our shared account was steadily going somewhere. I didn't think much of it. After all, I was earning enough, and if she wanted to spend it on a hobby, so be it. But then I noticed some alarming signals, withdrawals of large amounts of cash, including one case where more than 100,000 disappeared in just a few days. One evening over dinner, I decided to address this issue. "Harper," I asked casually, "what are you spending this kind of money on?" Her reaction was immediate, defensive even. "What's the problem? I have every right to spend as I please. I gave birth to your children, stayed home, and I deserve to treat myself." "Of course you do," I replied, keeping my tone calm. "But where exactly is this money going?" I added, trying to be understanding. If there's something personal, we can deal with it discreetly. No need to involve the kids or our parents." She froze for a moment, her eyes darting around. I could tell something wasn't right. "I'll find out sooner or later," I said gently but firmly. "It's better if you just tell me now." Her face changed. She left the table, pacing briefly before returning. Then, in a calm but serious tone, she confessed, "And let me tell you, I wasn't ready for what came next." It turned out she had started an affair, out of sheer boredom, no less. Feeling unloved, she'd registered on a dating site, met some young, opportunistic guy, and let him sweep her off her feet. She'd foolishly shared way too much about our life, our house, car, even who I was. He played the part at first, bringing flowers, taking her out to cafes, but soon it escalated. He began renting hotel rooms, and that's where our money had been disappearing. They slept together, and he took some provocative photos. I'm not sure if Harper knew what was happening, but the guy eventually asked her for a hefty loan. She paid him back, but before long he asked for more. At first, Harper thought he hadn't even returned the previous amount, but then he gave her an ultimatum. "Give me the money without asking questions, or I'll send those photos to your husband and post them online." Naturally, Harper panicked. She gave him the money once, then again, but the guy, arrogant and reckless, pushed further. When Harper finally came clean and told me everything, I lost my temper. "Well, that's just fantastic," I muttered under my breath. Yeah, I knew the passion had faded long ago, and the kids were growing up, but to make such a mess of things. There was no point in yelling, though, so I simply told her to arrange a meeting with this guy. "Transfer the money directly," I said. I went with a couple of my guys to meet this fool. We convinced him to come with us, had a word with him. Nothing too extreme, just firm. He didn't try blackmailing anyone after that. Harper and I ended up separating quietly. The older girls had finished school by then and were studying in Moscow, while our son, still in school, stayed with me most of the time. I continued to send money to Harper. I didn't want her to feel completely cut off, especially with the kids. Sure, there's no love left between us, but she still gave me children. Over time, though, she completely unraveled, drinking, losing herself. If she ever decides to seek help, I'll cover the costs, but I'm not going to offer anything unsolicited. Enough is enough.